Welcome, guys, to another Prowler podcast episode. Today, we are thrilled to have Jason Keller with us. He is actually the owner of Keller Sports Media, which is based out of Houma, Louisiana. So it's going to be a great conversation, not only about his recruiting journey, but what the Keller Media does for high school athletes as well and college athletes. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jason Keller as he introduces himself. And before we get into our first segment part tonight, which is the Prowler versus NCSA. So.
Yeah. So, first off, just man, thanks for having me on. It means a lot just to be able to, share my story and a little bit about what I got going on. But yeah. So, my name is Jason Keller. I'm from a small town in South Louisiana called Terrio, about 2 hours south of New Orleans. Played my high school ball at Terrebonne High School. Then played some JUCO ball at Community Christian College of Louisiana. And then from there, transferred on to Kansas Wesleyan University and NAIA school. Just had some things go on there. Wasn't really working out for me. Recruiting wise, going through high school. So my senior year was 2021. So dealt with COVID my senior year, but picked up 22 scholarships between the Division II, Division III, and NAIA level. I was ranked top 200 in the state and top 15 at my position, which was defensive back. And, just through the grace of God and just a lot of prayer and everything, was able to continue my journey onto the collegiate level. And came through college and just, really got interested in, trying to help people out to have, the things I wish I had whenever I was trying to get recruited. Summer of 2024, I started Keller Sports Media, which is, just something I do. Go cover high school games, college games, just, try to get coverage out in my area for these athletes. We got a lot of smaller 1A and 2A schools around where I'm from. So, these guys don't really get the exposure they need to get out and get to be able to go play college ball. So it's just a great thing that I'm trying to do to get off the ground to, help the area get a little bit more exposure.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, those 1A, 2A to 3A schools you hit around the head, they struggle to get the recognition because they don't got the resources like a 4A or 5A school has, right? Or even a 6A school. So you're perfectly right. I mean, that's where the Prowler sees most of our business at is, the lower level schools because those players are less fortunate to have the resources and what they have at their hands. They don't have a recruiting specialist on staff like a lot of these 6A to 7A schools have. So I think you hit it right on the head. So. But, we'll jump into the first segment tonight. It's going to be the Prowler versus the NCSA because I'm not a big fan of the NCSA. I tell players all the time, if you're paying for it, you're wasting your money. So we're going to dive into this because our podcast guest is actually NCSA alumni. So we want to learn how successful it was for him and if the Prowler was to his advantage, how he could have possibly seen it as well. So it's going to be an interesting topic. So. Well, the first question, you used NCSA personally, Jason. So what did they promise you as an athlete that sounded good at first but didn't actually deliver really?
Yeah, so I never really like to bash another program or anything. So I try to stay as professional as I can with it, obviously, because I've got some of my former college coaches that are actually recruiting assistants with NCSA now. So big respect to those guys for what what they attempt to do to help kids get recruited. It's something we all strive to do. But so I first learned about NCSA around the fall of 2017, whenever I was a freshman in high school. And I was never really promised anything per se, but I was told that this would be a tool that could definitely help me get recruited and would get my name out to college coaches and, just things of that nature. And, I felt that, it was kind of more of a subscription based thing as I got older. I signed up my freshman year and got the little free profile with no membership where you could reach out to so many schools and you could, do this and that. But, then you look at the membership fees and there's I don't want to put any indirect prices out, but it was some pretty hefty prices for a kid in my financial situation, which, wasn't the best. But there's kids paying upwards of $500-$600 for these memberships, and I was one of those kids. I know I paid pretty close to $700-$800, I believe, for my membership my senior year. And I mean, now they did do some things as far as give me a personal recruiting coach and tips and things, but yeah, things I was promised is that I would get recruited, and I kind of didn't see it in the scope that I thought I would. It wasn't really what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you that, and I've heard it from a lot of athletes, and I mean everybody does a great job recruiting, but I feel like some of these bigger platforms take money for granted. They like to be money burgers, so that's what the Prowler we're different at. We're not a subscription based company. When you sign an agreement with us, you're not signing in to stay with us for 6 to 8 months. You're signing in for a month-to-month payment. So once you make your first payment, then it's up to you to continue your second month. We're not going to lock you into anything. We're not going to do none of that. And another thing that we personally take pride here at the Prowler is we strive for that personal relationship. Even if we are an AI bot that's performing your reach outs and everything else, you will sit down with a person on our staff each week, not only to check in on your mental state, but also to check in how you're doing academically and on the field. And if there's anything we can provide to help, because we have multiple relationships with a lot of people that do all kinds of stuff. So we could, refer a kid to a counselor if they need that. A lot of kids go through a lot during the high school. So that's what we try to provide. So I feel like the Prowler definitely gives the upper leg because we don't lock kids into subscriptions. We aren't a money getter. So I feel like we definitely got the edge on that. So. But, when you compare the NCSA approach to the Prowler approach I just described, Jason, what stands out to you about how the Prowler actually executes for athletes?
Yeah, what stands out to me about the Prowler is, the state-to-state reach out aspect of it that I saw, kind of looking into everything. NCSA, it gives you this ability, I guess would be the word, to be able to reach out to any coach in the world. They've got a feature, I believe, where you can like type in and set your preferences of like region and things that, of that nature of where you would like to find schools. And, you can pick out majors and everything. But, with the Prowler, I seen it's like a specialized thing where, like a 5-state package, I believe is something y'all have where like you can pay a certain amount and pick 5 different states throughout the country and be able to, try to get in touch with coaches from that specific state, which is, something I believe is very beneficial, like for a guy, for me, like I'm from Louisiana, obviously. So, in my best interest would have been to go to school in either, Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, in-state or bordering states. So, I mean, to have that, that kind of a thing would have been great, just to be able to make sure I'm reaching out to schools that are, in my vicinity and be able to find the best fit for me that's, in a regional basis to where I'm not, moving across the country, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've moved 16 hours away from home to go play ball in Kansas, and it was one of the best years of my life. I had, a great time there, met some great friends that I still talk to this day. But I mean, I would have definitely enjoyed being able to play some ball closer to home.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, that's what the Prowler gives the kid athlete. We're open to whatever states they want to pick. We're not going to lock them into certain states. And the thing that I like about what we do the most is when you pick these states that you pick, you're getting access to every single school in there. And the way we reach out is on the player's personal X and the player's personal Gmail. A coach does not know what's coming from the Prowler. They will never know, most likely. So when you have that kind of different concept, coaches are more likely to respond because we talk to coaches every day at the college level. They are not looking at what NCSA sends them, especially at the D2 and D1 level nowadays. And I feel like that's a kind of a poor approach for some coaches to take, but also coaches don't have the time to check anything outside of their personal X. Their personal X is the heaviest hitter for recruiting nowadays, as we all know. It's the virtual
100%.
world that we live in. So the way the Prowler taps into a player's personal X helps them pursue opportunities off of it based on the states they want. We've seen such a good success rate. I mean, we have a 100% success rate in getting a kid to a school that he wants to be at. Might not be his dream school, but it's going to be a school that he would like to be at. And typically that is close to home, whether it's in that 7-hour radius. So we do take a lot of pride in that. And so, another thing I want to hit on tonight is, what would you say to parents or athletes that's on the fence about paying for the NCSA versus investing in the Prowler services? Since we are a new company, we realize there's a lot of people that don't know about us or anything, but from what you've gathered, what would you say to a parent or athlete?
I mean, first off, I'm never gonna tell a parent or a kid, or if it's a coach helping out a kid, I'm never gonna tell somebody, how to direct their journey. I've been in touch with some kids here and there. I have helped kids with their recruiting before, and I still do to this day. But I'm never gonna, say directly, this is what's best. This is what's best. Because I mean, what works for me or what has worked for me might not work for you. What's best for me might not be best for somebody else. But I feel like advice I could give to someone who's looking at NCSA versus the Prowler, if you're looking at the Prowler, man, it's definitely I feel like it's more personalized than NCSA is. And like you said, man, it goes direct through X and direct through the kids' messaging. So it almost looks like to a coach that the kid is sending the message. And I feel like that's a very good thing because, like you said, these college coaches, man, they really don't have the time. And I mean, obviously that's why I'm here, because I know what I'm talking about. I played on the college level, and I was at a top tier NAIA school, and these, being around college coaches, they genuinely, they take so much time away from their families. They're not having time to sit there at their computer or check their phone regularly. So, I mean, if you really want to get noticed, you have to stand out. And, a coach isn't logging into an NCSA profile as many times a week as he is to his own personal Twitter, I mean, I've seen times where whenever I was at Kansas Wesleyan, I've seen my coaches spend 4 or 5 hours a day on Twitter. I've seen GAs get out of class and go to their office, and they're a whole 2-hour period before practice just dedicated to going through Twitter DMs. So I mean, they're really locked in on X, and I believe that especially from my experience, because X was a very big tool in helping me get a lot of the scholarships and offers that I did get. So I mean, I believe X is the biggest platform on the planet. So I mean, if you're looking at NCSA versus the Prowler, man, I'm telling you, you gotta go with the Prowler just for the fact of the personalization of it, using your X and everything. Because like you said, coming from someone who has used NCSA, it has its points where I believe for its time when I was using it, that 2017 to 2020 era, whenever all these services and everything all these recruiting services and everything were just starting to take off, and they were all new to the game and everything. I believe for its time, NCSA was a good tool. Don't get me wrong, but just nowadays, the way it's developed and everything, I don't see that NCSA has really stepped up and stayed with the times, so to speak. So just some advice I would give is, really look into, if you're on the fence, so to speak, you really can't make a decision. Just, man, really look into the pricing and look into the benefits of it. Because, like we said, the Prowler's got that state-to-state reach, whereas really the only way you're getting that with NCSA is if, you get your personal recruiting coach, and they have what's called coaches picks. And so your personal recruiting coach will go in through your preferences and look at your film charts and everything, all your personal profile data and everything, and he can plug that in and find schools that he believes would be the best fit for you. Whereas with the Prowler, if y'all are reaching out, if you're able to reach out, say you're a kid from Alabama, you're able to reach out to every D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO program in Alabama. There's no way that you can go through, just say there's a total of 60 programs in Alabama. There's no way you're going to go through 60 programs over 5 different levels and not find the school that's the best fit for you. I mean, it's pretty impossible to not do that. And, reaching out through X, like we said, I hate to be long-winded about it, but X is the best recruiting tool by far. So if you're reaching out through X, you're, in my opinion, 15 times more likely to get a response than if you're sending an email to a coach through NCSA. Because, I mean, it's 2025. Who's really, checking their email anymore? But yeah, I mean, that's my biggest advice is just, really look into it, find what's the best fit for you, financially and system wise, for your wants and your needs. I mean, I'm never going to tell a kid, hey, pick this service or pick that service, because, that's not my call to make. I'm not that kid. I'm not their parent. I'm not their coach, their guardian, whoever it may be that's, dealing with that process. But I mean, just from experience, that would be my advice for sure.
For sure. And this is what I tell, and this is what my director of customer success tells on every single call he has with the athlete. An athlete can, on average, only message 15 to 20 coaches a day. Our AI will do one sweep for a whole category, approximately 67 states each night, of all every single coach on that staff directory. A player is not touching that. NCSA is not touching that. So the amount of messages that's getting sent out from what the Prowler can do is astronomical compared to anything that a person can think of. And that's really what's grabbing so many people's attention. I mean, coaches are contacting us from all over the country right now, asking how are we able to reach such a wide range of schools? Because first off, people don't realize once you receive an offer, and if you're a Prowler athlete, the Prowler's AI tool that's embedded will automatically present a post for you. All that post is going to do is start trickling into other offers, right? A lot of athletes don't realize that. A lot of athletes that are part of other recruiting services doesn't realize that. So when you're doing that, these athletes start realizing, hey, it's a trickle effect. It's always going to be so. But, we'll wrap up this segment tonight, and get with the last question is pretty much if you had the Prowler resources and what our software does to back you when you were being recruited, how do you think your journey would have been different, Jason?
I think it definitely would have helped me a lot more. One thing I always say, to former teammates, friends, family, something I always say is that I wish I knew then what I know now. And we all say that from time to time about whatever it may be. The old cliche, hindsight is 20/20. I think if I had the Prowler's resources, I feel like I definitely would have been in a better position as far as finding the school that was the best fit for me. Because with NCSA, like I said, I had the coaches' picks that, those were the schools that were the best fit for me. But, you also have your own personal wants too. So, I mean, you can go through NCSA and have a coach pick out, this D2 school and this D3 school. And, hey, these are the two best fits for you. But if you've got the Prowler and, if I had the Prowler, what I believe is a great resource that would have worked for me and that I believe can work for others is, the tool about it reaching out to coaches for you. Because a lot of kids just, and I know I definitely didn't, a lot of kids don't understand how to talk to college coaches. You don't want to go in a college coach's DM, hey, what's up, coach? My name is blah, blah, blah. No, you gotta, this is a guy, if he brings you in and pulls the trigger on you and you're a misfire, his job's on the line, man. You know, a college coach's job is find that next guy, find that next guy, find that next guy. And so if you're
Especially
not,
especially with the transfer portal nowadays, they could
oh
replace you like
yes,
this.
100%. I mean, 100%. You know, and you know that's something I know a lot about. You know, being a transfer myself is, you know, these guys, they're not, these coaches are not bringing guys in to, you know, sit the bench. You are not brought into a college program to sit the bench. Everybody is brought in to play. I mean, you might be brought in and, you know, go into a season or go into a fall camp at fourth, fifth string, but you're not there to, you know, sit the bench and be a depth guy. You are there to play. You know, that coach has a, you know, even if you're a partial scholarship guy or if you're a full ride or even a walk-on, you know, which, you know, shout out to all the walk-ons out there, you know, with all this clearinghouse stuff and everything that's going on with roster spot deductions and everything, you know, those, I've seen a lot of those guys be the heart of a program. So, you know, shout out to all the walk-ons out there for sure.
Yeah, no, that that
But,
that is a sad rule that's came out with the NCAA, and
yeah,
I
100%.
do not respect it at all because some of the greatest stories that came out of walk-ons, you know, look at the list goes on. Look at Stetson Bennett. I mean, went
Baker
on to
Mayfield,
win two national championships. Baker Mayfield. There's several others.
number one overall pick, Baker
Yep,
Mayfield, started
yep.
as a walk-on. But
So
yeah, no, you know, just to trickle back. I mean, if I had the Prowler's resources, I think it just would have helped me learn to be more professional when talking to coaches, and it would have helped me to be more realistic with my opportunities. You know, confidently as a man, I can say now, you know, I realize now that my talent wasn't where I thought it was. I thought I was a lot better than I was, but you know, that's just how I am. I was raised to be very confident in myself and in my abilities, and always strive to be the best version of myself. But you know, I feel like it would have given me that opportunity to see, like, you know, hey, there's really levels to this stuff about talking to coaches. Because I mean, I was that kid that, you know, you see these guys on X talking about, oh, I've, you know, I see this all the time. You'll see a kid post a screenshot of his Twitter DMs, and he's got 20 plus coaches a day that he's messaging, getting no responses. I've been that guy. I've been in those shoes where, you know, I'm shooting out 16, 17 messages a day with no responses. And I'm going online, filling out recruit questionnaires, and I'm plugging onto my NCSA profiles, switching up my preferences. Like I don't even care. Like, you know, I remember times, like, I live in the central region of America. I'm from South Louisiana. Why is there ever a point where I'm switching my preferences to I'd like to play at schools in the Northeast? That's not realistic, man. Like, as older me now realizes that's not realistic at all, dude. What would I have done going up playing ball 25 hours from home? What does that do for me? But you know, just with the Prowler, man, that option to be regionalized and get, you know, I can plug into these bordering states around me and stay close to home. You know, just learning to be more professional and how I talk to coaches, I feel like it would have got me a lot more responses. I feel like it would have helped me learn a lot more about the recruiting process from the good and the bad, you know. Because I mean, if I would have had more professionalism in my messages and got more responses, I definitely could have heard some coaches' feedback and, you know, hey, work on this, work on that, you know. But there was a lot of times where I feel like my messages to these coaches might have not been as professional as need be to get a response. And I feel like that left a lot to be desired in my recruiting journey because, you know, there were some programs that I had really high hopes to play for. You know, I would say my highest level of recruitment was, you know, D3. I had a lot of D3 attention. And, you know, as many programs that contacted me, there was probably twice as many programs that didn't respond. You know, and I feel like with the Prowler, if I'd have had that professionalism of learning, you know, like, yes, this is an AI bot generating text for me, but, you know, as a guy looking at it now, I can be like, hey, man, they're putting this in for me. But if this is a message it's showing me, you know, compare and contrast, you know, I can,
yeah, yeah. So one of the things we take pride in is you can personalize a message. It does not get sent. The only thing that's automatically triggered is the player's intro message, which I wanted to hit on as well because you said it's crucial. and that first message to a head coach
Yes,
or
first impressions are everything.
any kind of coach. And this is why the Prowler has to see such a good success rate. Because when a player comes on, first off, we're going to make sure their profile is clean as possible. Their handle name is what it should be, not Swagger 2.0.
Right.
Another thing is when the intro message goes out, we're going to make sure we have all the criteria to hit it right on the dot right away. A coach doesn't want to go searching for your huddle. He doesn't. A coach doesn't want to have to ask again for your transcript. If he's very interested, he will, but you got to be absolute dog when you come to that D2 and D1 level.
Yeah.
So if you got all that information added in that first intro message, which our Prowler does, you're going to see a totally different side of coaches reaching out.
Right.
So, but with that being said, man, I want to give you a chance to talk on the podcast about what you do. And our Prowler Spotlight tonight is more about Keller Sports Media. So, tell us what made you create this venture in your life.
Yeah. So, just like I said, like y'all have heard throughout, I was somewhere between very highly recruited and not very highly recruited. I was in a very weird middle ground. I was blessed to play at a 5A program, which is the highest level of high school football in Louisiana. And I was also very blessed to have a lot of college coaches come around my school because one of my high school teammates, Mason Smith, shout out to Mason Smith, defensive tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was the #1 player in the country our senior year. So, I mean, we had, LSU and Florida State, all these other schools coming. Even the year before me and Mason's senior year, 2020, we had Ja'Kai Douglas, who actually just graduated from Florida State. He also played with us as well. So I was very blessed to have some very high-level recruits around me. But, I wasn't that high-level type of guy. 5'6", 130 pounds, so very undersized for my position, and grades were very middle of the pack. Testing numbers 40 and all of that were very middle of the pack. So, I mean, my recruiting journey was done a lot by myself. I was on my own a lot, reaching out to coaches for myself and reaching out to try to find camps for myself. And, I was very institutionalized in my recruiting, doing everything alone. And the reason I started Keller Sports Media is because I want to give kids that exposure, and I've been very blessed to be able to do that. We have had some kids get a little bit of attention from videos that have been put out. I've had, I have college coaches that do follow my pages and everything. Even as far as FBS coaches, I've got some group of 5 coaches that follow me. I've got D2 coaches that follow me. And even as far as my personal profile on X, I still have coaches that recruited me, from the D1 level all the way down to post-grad coaches. But, just giving kids that exposure, like I said at the beginning, those 1A and 2A schools that, these kids are playing low-level high school football that coaches aren't really watching because, playing in Louisiana, coaches out here are looking at, they're looking at the Edna Cars and the St. Augustines and the John Curtises, all these high-level programs that are winning state every 2 to 3 years or even sometimes back-to-back. So, my mission with Keller Sports Media is just to make sure that a kid has an opportunity to be seen. And in the Houma area where I'm from, man, we've got some great football talent, but a lot of these kids fly under the radar, and it's simply just because they don't understand the recruiting process, or they just don't understand something. And, I want to be that, that vessel to help them get to the next level. So, that's really the main purpose of Keller Sports Media, is just to get these kids seen.
Gotcha. And so you mainly go out to their games and video their games, pretty much. Is that how you do it?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
If you go look back on my page, there's my first videos from whenever I first started. Last season was my first year actually getting game content out. But there's a kid on there. My first game I ever did was my alma mater, Terrebonne High, last week versus their week 1 game versus Riverside Academy. And my 2 guys that I actually picked as offensive and defensive player of the year were my offensive player of the game was Alvin Celestine, Terrebonne High's running back. and he's a 4-star athlete with Power 5 offers, Power 4 offers, excuse me. But you know, there's just, I'm not gonna say I've had any hand in his recruiting, because I mean that guy was 3-4 stars before I ever came out with Keller Sports Media. But you know, another guy, Zion Simmons, he was my defensive player of the game. He picked up a little bit of attention afterwards, and you know, it was just great to see that. You know, I was able to post a kid out and see him get some exposure from it. And I mean, you know, that's what I'm here for. You know, I mean, there was a kid, Sean Billups, graduated from Coleraine High School in Cincinnati, Ohio last year. I came across him at the Manning Passing Academy last summer. And, you know, to my knowledge, Sean, if you're out there watching this somehow, to my knowledge, Sean does not play college football anywhere. But when I met Sean, you know, I went through his Twitter profile, and Sean had, you know, no attention from what I could see. And I post out videos of Sean. These videos end up getting 500 views. One got 600. One got 1.3 thousand, I believe. And Sean ended up with a couple Division III offers. So, you know, even it's not even kids from our area. I mean, if you look at my bio, it says something to the point of your home for media coverage in the South and all across the world. Because, you know, if I can help a kid from Wisconsin as much as I can help a kid from Louisiana, so be it. You know, one of my biggest stories that I will ever tell people is Daniel Simon. You know, look him up. Daniel Simon, he's a defensive end at Lindenwood University, a Division I FCS school. When I was a senior in high school going into college is when I actually decided, you know, I had wanted to be a recruiting agent. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a sports agent. And I helped this kid with tips in his recruiting. And I knew from being a senior in high school at the time, I knew college coaches could not reach out to this kid. So, you know, I'm like, you know, he's reaching out to me and like, you know, I really want to go to some camps this summer. I really want to try to get my name out. And this kid's from Winneconne, Wisconsin. So he, you know, very low level football there. I believe it was a 2 or 3A school. I don't know what level Wisconsin goes up to, but, you know, he was playing at Winneconne High School in Winneconne, Wisconsin. And going into the summer before his senior year, just for me reaching out to coaches for him, we had this kid actually get a camp invite, which he attended. We had this kid go to camps at the University of Wisconsin and the University of Iowa. So 2 Power 4 programs. And it was just because I had that knowledge of the recruiting process. I had that knowledge of how to reach out and how to talk to college coaches. And I was able to help this kid get there. And, you know, he ended up eventually being a 2-star prospect on Rivals.com and was actually committed to South Dakota State for a time before flipping to Lindenwood. And so, you know, big shout outs to Daniel. I'm proud of everything he's accomplishing. But, you know, that is my mission, is to help these kids get recruited, you know. And, you know, my socials are always open. My DMs are open to all messages. I'm not one of those guys where you got to be verified to DM me. You shoot me a message, I'm going to get it. You know, website link is in my bio. You know, click on there, scroll down to the contact me page, hit my email. It's always open. You know, I'm on my phone. My phone's always on, you know. You know, that's my goal, is get these kids recruited, get a kid an opportunity, because that, I know that was all I ever needed. All I ever needed was a shot. And, you know, I was very blessed to, as I went through my recruiting process, you know, like I said, I had 22 scholarships coming out of graduation of high school. So, I mean, as I went, I learned a lot more and more and more. Every scholarship that I got just taught me more and taught me more and taught me more. And so, you know, and it leads down to that trickle down effect, you know. I mean, if I can get a kid an opportunity and he gets an offer from Framingham State Division III, if he posts that offer from Framingham State, all the other schools in Framingham's conference are going to see that post. So,
I
You
mean,
know,
just like we said a couple weeks ago on the podcast, once your rival school sees a guy that offers them, they typically gonna pull the trigger on them too.
exactly,
So,
exactly,
so
and
that resharing of stuff, just like I said with our AI, is triggers it. Man, it'll cause a trickle down effect real quick.
100%. That
So
trickle down effect is a real thing. I've experienced it. I've been through it. You know, I'm not gonna name any names, but I actually had a school. I had a couple schools actually. Um, got offered by a school, and not 2 or 3 weeks later, I had scholarships from. I got offered by this one school, and 2 weeks later, I had two more scholarships from other schools in that conference that me and these coaches had never talked before. But just from them seeing that a rival school had offered me, that picked me up two more scholarships. And so, it's a real thing. But it all goes back to, like I said, first impressions are everything. So being a vessel, being somebody who's been in those shoes, of reaching out to coaches and, man, what do I say? Man, why is this coach not responding? Or I said this and he ghosted me, or I said this and he responded in this way. The messaging with coaches is all about realizing, it can go coach by coach too. I mean, if you reach out to one coach and you say one thing and he responds to it in a certain way, hey, maybe I don't say that to the next coach. If this one thing gets you ghosted by this coach, probably don't say that to the next coach. But that's what the recruiting process is. It's learning, it's trial and error.
no, you're exactly right. And, talking about the recruiting process, and this is kind of, wrapping up the discussion tonight, guys. But, when it came to recruiting help, I want to take a poll for you. And I'm going to post this poll survey for everybody else to post, to vote as well. So if you want to vote, just go to our YouTube channel. It's the first poll in there. It'll also be shared on every social media link in the comments for this podcast. But when it came to recruiting help, Jason, what mattered or matters most to you? Personal guidance and real strategy like the Prowler offers, just having an online profile like the NCSA offers, direct connections with college coaches, or honest feedback, realistic recruiting plans? Which one is the most crucial?
Most important to me was the honest feedback and realism. I'm a realistic guy. I was very realistic with my opportunities whenever it came to recruiting. I wasn't out here reaching out to Division I coaches. Like I said, my senior year, I was 5'6", 130 pounds, playing cornerback and free safety. So I know at 5'6", 130 pounds, I'm not even close to being on a Division I coach's radar. So, something that sticks with me to this day that has helped me a lot in life is the honest feedback that I got from a coach. And again, I won't say this program's name because I never like to blast a program or a coach, but I had a Division I coach. I reached out to a Division I coach, and this is what actually got me to be realistic with myself. I reached out to this coach, and, I made a great first impression message. I gave him my name, height, weight, GPA, ACT score, dropped my film link, and everything. Did everything by the book exactly the way you would have it done. And this coach, in a very short 5 to 10 word message, said, very undersized for your position, not really the size we look for, not really the type of guy we look for. Be realistic with your opportunities, hope the best for you. So this coach flat out told me, hey, you really don't have the size that Division I coaches are looking for. Be a little bit more realistic with your opportunities. And that led me to realize, okay, you know what? He's right. I'm a smaller guy. And I realized it from, I'm playing against guys. Like I said, I've had teammates that are, in NFL rookie mini camps or on NFL rosters right now. I've played with and against NFL talent. So even from high school, I had a knowledge of something that is very vital. The most vital piece of recruiting is the eye test. If you do not meet the Division I eye test, do not stress yourself out about it, because you will end up comparing yourself, and that is never a good position to be in.
Correct.
If you are John Doe, 5'10", 180, and you're comparing yourself to, some other guy who's 6'2", 215, you've got to be, if you're going to beat that guy out for a scholarship, you have got to be that guy. And there are even times when you can be 5'10", 185, 4'3", 40, 1,500 receiving yards in a season. And just because that guy is 6'2", they're pulling the trigger on him instead of you. So, I mean, definitely the biggest thing for me was the realistic opportunities and the honesty, just because, cliche we've heard since we were 4 years old is honesty is the best policy. So
For sure.
I would hate to, and I've been in the position where, college coaches, and, this is no flack to college programs, but college coaches will tell you what they need to tell you to get you on a campus.
I mean, at the end of the day, though, they do tell you what they want to do to get you on campus, but it's mainly for camps. That's why at the Prowler, we don't advise players to go to camps. Don't just go to the camp. Make sure you're invited. And also know this, if you're listening to this, athletes, a coach can waive camp fees at all levels.
Yes.
So do not tell them don't let them tell you they can't. They can. And if they want you, they will waive it.
Yeah, that is a great piece of advice about the camps. Yeah, if like he said, if you are not like I said earlier, I'm never gonna tell you what you should and should not do, but heed my advice from a college athlete who did attend camps. If you are not personally invited, probably don't attend that camp. A lot of camps are money grabs, and also really do your research. If that coach is not, have the context clues to read between the lines and see how personalized that message is, because a lot of coaches will copy and paste the message and just change your name into that message. So make sure, hey man, I got this camp invite from XYZ. Make sure that it is a personalized invite, that it's not from a mailing list, or that it's not, spam email, mass message.
Correct. But I want to leave it on this comment, though, because you hit it right on the head. Just because you receive a camp invite, don't post it, right?
Right.
What typically a philosophy is. In my opinion, go ahead and post it at the coach, at this program. Because in the algorithm, most people don't realize, if you do that in the algorithm in X, you're going to be produced on more people's feeds than you realize.
Yes.
So just because you're not attending it, a lot of people think, oh, don't post it. No, go ahead and post it. Blast it all over social media, but do it professionally. So I want to leave everybody with that. And, I want to let Jason leave a closing remark as we're about to close it off because we're almost at our time deadline. But it's been a great conversation, Jason, and I'm going to leave you with a, quick little closing remark you got for everybody tonight.
Yeah, my closing remark is, I don't want to push anything on anybody, but I'm a very religious guy. So Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you hope, plans to prosper you, plans to prosper you, plans to give you hope in a future. So just always trusting yourself, trusting, whatever you believe. If you believe in God or whatever it is that you believe in, whoever it is you believe in, just, trust them, trust yourself. Just always do what is best for you. If, you believe a decision is best for you, go with it. Don't ever let anybody stop you from chasing your dreams, because, I'm living proof. My whole life, I started playing football at 7 years old. I'm currently 22. My whole life, people told me I couldn't do it. People told me I couldn't play high school football. I did it. People told me I couldn't get scholarships. I got 22 of them. People told me I couldn't be good enough. I was ranked top 200 in one of the best football states in the country. People told me that I couldn't go to college. I did it. People told me I couldn't graduate college. I have an associate's degree right now. People told me I would never get traction with my media. And I've covered events such as LSU spring practice. I just did interviews at the Manning camp with Southern Miss's starting quarterback. I've been in contact with possibly having opportunities to go cover their week 1 game against Mississippi State. So, just always chase your dreams. But as we spoke about, do be realistic with yourself, because there is no reset button in life. So once you make a decision, it is final. It is forever. So make sure it's the best decision for you.
Correct. You live once. But, tonight, guys, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. But our weekly quote this week is, you aren't a recruit until a coach knows about you. and that's by Pat Dolan, the St. Cloud State baseball coach. And I think that speaks volume to what we talked about tonight, guys, because as I've said all along, if you want to be a number in a database as an NCSA, you could go missing real quick and not be found. So I want to thank everybody who tuned in to the Prowler podcast. We're beyond excited to continue expanding everyone's knowledge of our platform and to partner with those who are truly serious about taking the game to the next level. And as always, stay connected, stay driven, and keep pushing towards your dreams. We cannot wait to see what's next. Until next time, guys, Prowler up.
All right, man. Well, I'm gonna go on ahead and get up here, but thanks for having me, man.